Okay, I am live on Facebook after so many days. It really feels like a very long time since I've done this. But we are celebrating the month of love at Thrive, and we are doing some amazing things. If you haven't checked out Instagram, go check it out. We're putting up really nice tips there. And today, to just discuss this entire theme of love, what does it really mean? Why is it such an essential journey? Why is love an important component of your wellness journey? I have Pratishtha Khan, who is a very good friend and also a Thrive Tribe member who's been on her own healing journey. She's here. We both just going to discuss about what love means to both of us. And I'm just going to bring her into the broadcast. And here we go. Hi, Pratishtha. So good to see you.
What's up? What's up?
Well, I'm really excited.
Exciting.
I know, and it's been so long since I went live on Facebook. I think the last time I did that, I went on a rant about people who didn't take care about their diabetes. So, and then like someone told me, why are you so angry about us? And then I was like, okay, I won't do this to you guys. But I'm really happy.
Chat. This is a whole different vibe. We are like,
yeah, like, I don't know if people can see
the month of love.
All the hearts around me and the like nice happy pictures. So yeah, so it's all about love. Yeah. So promise, no anger.
Yes. So Mugdha, you know what? When you went on with this theme of month of love for Thrive, around that time, all these lovely 15% discount on lipstick and like your 20% discount on hair spa started coming up, and this whole spiel that we are being sold about self-love and there was like a very prominent theme to this. This was again self-love was being turned into one commodity, and it just didn't feel right. And because I've seen you talk about the real aspects of love, and that is the self-love that makes sense to me. I just wanted to ask you, what you believe actually true love is versus what we have been made to believe by so much propaganda and media selling. What do you think is actually the definition of true love?
Yeah, I think like when people think of true love, it immediately reminds them of all these romantic cards and books and Bollywood songs. And like no one even knows that true love really is the relationship you have with yourself, right? Because all the relationships outside are a reflection of that relationship you have with yourself. And people think true love is like finding your soulmate and like, happily ever after and all of that.
Yes.
And of course, so that's one dimension of it, which I mean, if you find a partner who resonates with you, who understands what your values are, who honors consent, who honors feeling, that's great. But you shouldn't even go looking around for a partner until you have a really strong love relationship with yourself, right? And that really transcends all these lipsticks and spas. So see, spa sessions are great. Like I said this last time also, it's good. Like buying yourself flowers, indulging in like some retail therapy once in a while is okay. But if that is all that you're doing, thinking that's love, then you're literally misusing or abusing one tool that you might have to mask something else. Like when people drink a lot of coffee because they don't have energy without coffee, they're just using a tool to kind of mask an underlying health issue, right? So for me, even when it comes to things like, just not really looking at what's happening with you internally. Why are you feeling low in the first place? Why do you need to go and find therapy, right? Why do you feel the need to buy a really big box of chocolates and eat that? That why has to be answered first. And then you can look at these things that you do, right? So for me, love, like loving myself, is actually experiencing the pain that happens even before the pleasure that comes,
right?
Only when you're willing to really, and I think it's a facet of self-awareness, like knowing who you are and knowing what you like and knowing what you don't like. And I mean, we are human, so feelings are going to happen. You can't hide from your feelings, right?
Yes.
But then the willingness to experience the entire range of feelings, see what is being triggered by what, and then working on that, right? And that to me is love, more than just buying and shopping for the superficial things that soon will feel empty again with, and then you'll need more of them.
Right. So, Mugda, what you said is very true, but the thing is, in the mainstream, right, this whole concept of those flowing white sheets and a hero coming with roses and knights in shining armor, and this whole uh, fake storytelling of what love is, like, it's just been reduced to an external expression through things. Like, your credit card can't be your tool for self love. Your
Right.
somebody doing stuff for you cannot be your tool for like self appreciation. But
Right.
it's just so deeply embedded in the mainstream that it's very difficult to convince people otherwise. And I believe that somewhere, like, one of the good things that happened in the last year's pandemic is because people were stuck with who they were stuck with. A lot of relationships issues which were being shoved under the carpets, and it's a very, very common thing that has happened. They just blew up into people's faces, when you spent time with each other, and people had used, like, when you put the burden on someone else to fulfill you, it's
Yep.
never going to happen, right? But but since this is so deeply rooted into our conditioning, how do we even begin to unlearn something that's just practically become part of our DNA? How do we begin that journey to self-love?
So I think, so for me, I can speak from my personal journey, and then this
Right.
is what I help other people with, right? And then it works apparently.
Exactly.
So I mean, there is no template that.
It's worked for your tribe. I
Yeah,
can vouch for that. So
so it really begins with so one is, of course, at some point like, if you're in denial about things that are happening in your life, you can never go on this journey, right? So it starts with really being willing to look at what's going wrong, because I was sold the story as well, right? Like Cinderella was one of the stories I'd read when I was a kid, and
yes,
then of course, like with my first marriage, I thought this was the template for life. Like this is how it meant. Love was about possessing. Love was about holding on. Love was about like being the one and only in somebody's life and stuff like that, right? Like if
yes,
not, everything else is over, kind of a thing. So I thought love was that, and in fact, when the person in the relationship was being possessive about me, I thought, oh, this guy loves me so much, because that's what Bollywood has taught us, right?
wow,
Like
yes,
Ranjana and all these stalker movies.
toxic love,
Yeah, toxic love, right? Like if somebody really loves you, then they are not going to want to share you with anyone else, and that is love, right? So
yes,
horrible. Or the fact that if you love somebody, then you should be willing to do everything and anything, like be the doormat, be the resource pool,
oh
like just
yeah,
your life energy just goes into this person. So a lot of people live their lives like that without realizing it's fundamentally wrong, right? So unless somebody comes to the point that, hey, something's really messed up, and I don't know why, but something's messed up, unless somebody comes to that
yes,
point, it really can't begin. Like I've tried to do this even with a few of my friends, somebody in my family, and I realized I was like literally banging my head against the wall, because they weren't in the place to look at what I was seeing. But let's say somebody sees that, somebody gets out of their denial and somebody says, oh, this thing is really messed up and I need to do something about it. I think the first step is, like I said earlier, self-awareness. Like just understand what is it that you are, right? Without any of these other identities, like this person's girlfriend, this person's wife, this person's daughter-in-law, this person's mother, without any of those things that we associate love with. Just understand who you are as a being. What is it that you like and what is it that you don't like that is the first step, I would say. And then from there you come into a place of trying to figure out what are the things you're going to say yes to and what are the things you're going to say no to, and that starts defining what you would be okay with in a relationship. Beyond that, I think one very, very important component also is self-acceptance, because like I've done this work myself, right? Like when you look at yourself in terms of who am I really, what do I like, what do I not like, and then you'll start
yes,
seeing some not so nice bits about yourself. Nice by definition, right? Like
right,
maybe you don't want to be in a big family. Maybe you just want it to be you and this one person, right? So what? So it's
yeah,
not it's not it's what you want. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. But a lot of women, especially in India, get very, very hung up on these issues, which society says are a to do if they are in love with somebody, but
Yes.
they don't want to,
And
right?
we all
So,
know about it.
yeah. So accepting those aspects of yourself, which might not necessarily be conventionally, the most positive person kind of a thing, accepting that
Yes.
and being at peace with yourself. That, okay, I am somebody who has very strict boundaries for behavior in the house. Okay,
Right.
that is me, right? I'm not going to let anything go on. For somebody else, that might seem like such a dictatorial way to live, but accepting who you are becomes the next step. Because see, the thing is, Pratishtha, what I have learned in life, if you don't accept who you are, along with all the, I use the word knobbly bits, but they're really knobbly bits, right? Like on a
They
face,
are. They are.
pimple. So that's okay. It's your face, it's your pimple, own it.
Right.
But if you don't own that, and if you don't come to terms with that, if you aren't at peace with that, someone can use that to uh, manipulate you in a relationship that, hey, this thing is really off about you, but I'm still putting up with you. You should be indebted to me for like,
Yes.
people do that. I've seen that kind of ugly manipulation happen in relationships as well,
Right.
right? So one is becoming aware of who you are. Secondly, accepting everything that you are. The good, the bad, the light, the dark, the shadow, whatever you may call it, all of that.
Right.
That becomes such an important step in really being able to define what you want out of a relationship without having to define the relationship itself, right? So it all begins with you.
Yeah.
It's all you, right? Like I
Yeah.
keep telling people
Exactly.
that love is all the love you experience in your life from people is a reflection how you feel about yourself. If you're okay with your consent being violated, people will violate it. If you're not
Right.
okay, people will
And this
set that
has
down.
troubled me, like as a woman, I say this as a woman that, when I was like taught, or like, subliminal conditioning of what love is supposed to be, it was all about giving, right? Like we saw it
Yep,
from our mothers, from our
yep,
fathers, from families. Even the movies, the shows are just constantly beating that particular thing,
yep.
that love just means like just giving everything
Yeah.
about yourself. A very, very disturbing trend that I saw in these so-called self-help articles was that if you are facing relationship issues, I just saw this whole pattern emerge where you were expected to just put in, you were expected to just set the
Wow.
boundaries and then just keep like respect the family, set those boundaries, you protect yourself, you do this. And I was like, yes, but this is a relationship between two individuals.
Yep,
Like, why aren't you telling us that something is expected from the other person also? If I'm carrying the burden entirely on my shoulders, and which is why we see so many people who are so unhappy in love, when love itself as a word connotes ecstasy,
yep,
gratitude, joy. It connotes light. Nobody paints love letters in black. It's
yep,
pink and it's just colors of happiness. But when it comes to real life relationships, and I'm not just about talking about like relationship between two individuals, like you mentioned, it's your family, it's your friends, it's a partner, it's a child. Love should be just the source of joy, and when you yourself are not that source of joy to yourself, and you go looking, you become this bundle of darkness, you're
yep.
not going to find that light outside, right? So, but then when we talk about these emotions of joy and gratitude, right? Do you think that the first step towards gratitude, like you said, is acceptance of everything that we are? Does do these emotions also have something to do with like the state of physical wellness that you are in? Because they say love
Absolutely.
makes you feel butterflies in your stomach, it makes you feel lighter, so there is a chemistry involved in love. So
Yes,
what
yes.
is the physical wellness aspect of being purely in love with yourself?
So, see, there's so much here. Like you've opened a box that I can talk for the next 2 hours.
I know you, and I can talk about this for years.
But yeah, so see, when it comes to feelings, right, in the
Yes.
body, how you feel, a lot of it is also controlled by your biochemistry and the hormones and the neurotransmitters and all of that. And love often raises your levels of oxytocin, which is the hormone that causes bonding,
Right.
and it raises your levels of serotonin, especially the first, like that honeymoon period, right? Like when you just met somebody, you
Yes,
vibe,
yes.
click, and like everything is
When
great,
we are
and like
awash in love
yeah,
hormones.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of serotonin, there's a lot of dopamine, there's a lot of that. Um, Now those levels drop over time in a relationship because
Right.
that's how relationships are designed. That you work on things together and you find new ways to bring these. But what happens if your body itself is deficient in a lot of base stuff, right? Like, for example, if you don't even have the raw materials to make your hormones, if you don't have, if you're deficient in, let's say, B12 and zinc and all of that, maintaining that state of joy becomes a challenge. So, whether you're with somebody or whether you're not, you should be able to trigger these changes in your biochemistry just by virtue of breathing. Like, how do I
See,
make
this
this
is the
more?
crux of this
Yeah,
conversation. Like, how do you
yeah,
get those love hormones flowing without someone else's
yes.
presence? Yeah.
See, there is a state of mind. So, like the stuff that you said about gratitude, right? So, I
Yeah.
mentioned this earlier somewhere else today that you could be stuck in a traffic jam, and you could, if you could generate gratitude at that moment, that, oh my
Yes.
God, I actually either am driving my own vehicle or I have the ability to afford a cab ride or something like that. If you're stuck in a
Yes.
traffic jam, you're in a vehicle, right? So gratitude for the fact that you're not walking out in the hot sun and you're actually in a comfortable vehicle.
Yes.
Gratitude for the fact that, okay, you're late for some meeting, which means there's another human who's waiting for your presence. You know how important that is? Like there's
Yeah.
another human being waiting for you. So if you could generate gratitude for these little things for that situation, your body's biochemistry starts changing because you cannot be in a state of gratitude and still feel like really low in life. You cannot, right? So
Precisely.
yeah, so the only challenge what we've seen is like in the work we do is there are some people who are inherently cheerful and positive and who've done their mind work, who've done that work to kind of be able to look at their blessings for everything in life. But still, because of their physiological health issues, either they have insulin resistance, the sugar keeps fluctuating, so they don't have consistent energy to maintain that state, or
Yes.
like I said, deficiency, right? So because of that, they experience symptoms of what people might call lack of love, while they don't really have that lack of love, right? Like
We
their
feel,
heart is, yeah, yeah.
yes,
So it's like the
emotionally
body,
unavailable.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the
We all
body,
know that those people.
yeah. So that their body kind of prevents them from really being who they could be had they, like, which they could if they had the support from their body.
Right.
So and like sometimes, no, something as simple as just fixing a B12 deficiency or a vitamin D deficiency changes the brain chemicals and the neurotransmitters and all of that. And then people
Yes.
generally feel happier and they just feel so much more full of life, right? And then that starts translating like, see, if you're a light, you are going to shine out in the darkness. You are like
Yeah.
you
Yes.
can't not shine, right? And then the world starts seeing that, and then their relationships start changing, and it's incredible what happens. But
Yeah. And I've personally experienced that working with you. Like, when I was going through the protocol, the before protocol Pratishtha and the after protocol, like I was amazed by my own ability to feel the better emotions.
yep,
Like it's as if by not really listening to what my body was saying, communicating to me through lack of energy, through lack of joy, in fact the lack of ability to feel love itself. These were actually trigger points. This was actually my body telling me that something's not right. And once
right.
that was put into balance, I mean, how I get excited about every little thing. I see a nice picture, I start crying. And we all, and I want to say this to everybody who's watching this. Do you guys not remember how easily happy we were as when we were children? Like, we discovered everything.
Exactly.
Like, it was just, and now there is just so much sensual overload. But that shouldn't make you numb. That should just make you so happy. Like, look, they came up with this new thing. Look, this new book. Look, this new recipe. Look, they are putting pineapple on a pizza. So, it's just like, just what love makes you feel, that, that bounciness and whatever. You don't have to sing a Yash Raj song to feel in love. You just
Exactly, right?
feel it
So
when your
kids,
body is in balance.
this is a
Yeah.
great analogy. Like kids don't go around singing Bollywood romantic songs, right? But they're
Yes.
such an epitome of love. Like you see them and they're always cuddly and they're like,
Yeah.
they're just happy beings. And most people want to be with kids because they just radiate so much joy and love and happiness, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think what happens to us as we grow up, na, Pratishtha, because of all these wrong templates of relationships and like even the other stuff that goes
Yeah.
around in terms of money and stress and work and all of that, your body usually ends up in this constant flight or flight response mode, right? Like, oh, is
Yes.
this a threat? Is this a threat? Right? So you're constantly looking for threats, and that puts a filter. And sometimes you can't even see when love, when it's right there, ready to smack you
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
face. Like
Knock
you
you on
can't
your
see
door.
it. Yeah, it's there and you can't see it because you're like constantly judging, is this a threat? Is this a threat? Like, how do I survive? How do I survive? Right? So there's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of childhood trauma also that comes in the way, for sure.
Right.
And like when you start doing this work, right, like that's why I say the self-awareness and self-acceptance part becomes really
Yes.
important because then you start seeing, oh, if I am like this, where did this begin? And
Yes.
then
Exactly.
whenever it began, why did I become this, right? Why did I become this person?
And there's always a
And
point. Yeah.
yes,
There,
there
there,
always
there
is.
was a point.
And it usually has to do with survival. Usually,
Yes.
right? It's usually something that came and scared you so much, either as a kid or as a teenager, that you were like, oh, let me develop this thing around it so it can never hurt
Yes.
me. And that's where it begins. And it takes work because it's sometimes like I was telling my friend, it's literally like going down the sewers and like, trying to look for clean water. But
Yes.
it's so worth it. It's so worth it because once you look at that, you look at when it happened, why it happened. Do I really need to be this anymore? No, I don't. And then you're just free. And then
Yes.
like the boing boing thing that happens with you, right? Like you're so excited and you're so
I
happy
know.
and yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's how you are because you're not being pulled down by things you don't want anymore. You might still keep some of those aspects of yourself to continue to protect yourself, right? Whatever works for you
Right.
in your life, wherever you are. But at least look for them.
Right. Right. So, Mukta, like we just discussed, that there is usually a point where we start that emotional disintegration, where we want to feel lesser and lesser. And I've been hearing a lot of stories that there are a lot of people like there was this tsunami of emotions all of last year. A lot of
Yep.
people stopped seeing future. So I have actually heard very young girls and very young boys say this, and it breaks my heart that we don't see any future anymore. And I'm like, dude, you are 23, right? Like I'm seeing a massive future in front of me, and this is just a bad year, like not a bad life. Like they say, it's a bad day when something bad happens. It's not a
Right.
bad life, right? But at Thrive, you've always spoken about the inextricable link between our emotions and the physical state of our body. Do you
Yep.
think that the fear that we were subjected to all of last year became this collective trauma for the entire society, where you were actually scared to love yourself for the fear of not knowing? It's just so distressing to not know, to not be able to make travel plans, to just walk out with a mask, to just have this fear instilled into you through print machinery, through media machinery, through everything. So how are we going to undo this damage? Because it's, to me, to what I've seen on ground, it's been a lifetime of damage and fear. And fear is
Yep.
the opposite of love. Love makes you fearless. So how
Yep.
are we going to fight this, and how are we going to just like feel very valentine again? What are those small things that you can do in your everyday life?
So one is, see, like the fear that came last year in 2020, and because I've been in the space of working with people's health, I know most of it was from health. Like people were really afraid of dying. So most of us
Yes.
are afraid of dying, right? But for a lot of people, death is something that's like, far away, like you've parked it, like some
Yeah.
kabhi to hoga, it'll happen maybe when I'm 60, 68, 70, 80 or something.
Yeah.
This suddenly brought you face to face with death. And
Right.
right, it was like, oh my God, I can die tomorrow because of how the media made it out to be.
Right.
And I think that fear just took over everything else, right? Like that
It
will
did.
to live, the will to create beauty, the will. So most people had an existential crisis that what am I even doing? Because I can
Yes.
die any
That's
moment,
what.
right? And it's unfortunate that that existential crisis actually led to higher suicide rates and all of that. This, I mean, in 2020, it
Yes.
was really bad. Like people's mental
Yeah.
health
It
really
didn't get
deteriorated.
spoken about enough, but the suicide rates really shot through the roof.
They were beyond like COVID rates in
Yeah.
some places. So my strategy, and this has always been my strategy with fear, even if it was fear of the like any fear, right? Just look for
Yeah.
what. So most people are afraid of death because either they're afraid of their own death or the death of the people they care about. Because
Yes. That's a bigger fear, actually.
yeah, because one, they don't want to be left alone.
Yes.
If the people who they care about die, if their loved ones die, they've not come to terms about what their life means without them. So there's a big fear of what if those people leave? What do I do with my life, right? Because a large
Yes.
part of their identity is associated with them. So I'll come to tips that we could do around Valentine's Day, but I just want to talk of like where is this
Please do.
fear
Yes.
coming from, right? So
Yes.
it's that like if they die, what happens to me? The second fear is
Yes.
about like your own death, right? Like if I die, then what happens to the stuff around me, right? Like my kids and
Yeah.
my
Like I'm
my
worried
my
about.
spouse.
I'm literally worried about, like, the ones immediately around me. I mean, I know they will
Yes. So
survive, but
yeah.
yeah.
So what happens to them? And you know, one is like the actual physical, tangible stuff, right? Like you, if at all you die, then make an insurance plan so that it well taken care of and things like that, right? So that like if you have time, just make sure you do that. So people are taken care of monetarily. But most people, I think, honestly, and I don't think a lot of people want to admit this, people have really messed up relationships with each other.
Yes.
And they think that given time, somehow magically this is going to get fixed. So either they put up with each other and like live with each other, or they just like push stuff under the carpet and they don't want to deal with it. And then the fear of that person going off without any closure is what really scares a lot of people.
Yes.
Is,
Yes.
is, is what I
When
think,
you
right?
think
Like
about it, yes.
yeah, like for me, I knew my dad is at risk given his age and his eating habits and all of that. But I have made my peace with who the man is and my relationship is with him. And I understand that if his soul leaves his body, it is just another lifetime for his soul, right? So
Yeah.
I am not worried about what happens next. How will I live without him? Because it's clean right now. So every moment that we have together is like a new start to the
Exactly.
relationship. So
Exactly.
for a lot
Yes.
of people, they've not cleared that out, and that's why the fear comes in. How can you make things better around Valentine's Day? Well, you can, close the door on fear if you don't want to
Yeah.
look at it. If you want to address it, then that takes work. But maybe you can start doing little love stuff, like, a little nice note that you can just send to
Yeah.
someone you care about, right? Like one
Right.
note, one act of love, like you could just book a movie together with someone that you care about and you could go watch it.
Right.
Most people are scared of theaters now. You could do little love notes to yourself
Yeah.
that you can surprise yourself with. Like it's really fun to do that, right? Like sometimes you forget also you've written something for yourself because I forget.
Yeah.
Like
I
you write a
keep
love note.
notes for myself in different places, and then I don't even
Yeah,
remember where I've kept them, and then
exactly,
I
right?
find this note.
It's
Yeah.
like a dog hiding bones or a squirrel hiding nuts. You won't even
I
remember where
know.
they are. But suddenly, when it's winter, like when winter's over and summer's out, you'll find them. So, little love notes for yourself, for the people you care about, small, tiny gifts. Because I really like the idea of gifting, not obnoxiously expensive gifts, but like,
Yes.
things that somebody would really appreciate. Like if somebody loves books, then maybe a book that they would like. So, things like that. So, start doing these small things from a place of, oh, I want to create more love in my life. I'm done, like done and dusted in 2020. I'm done with the fear and I just want to let love be.
Right.
And, treat yourself to really good food. Take care of your own health, right? Like if fear of
Yes.
death is so
Number
scary. I
one
mean,
number
these are all,
preparation. Yeah.
because if you are afraid of death, how can somebody die? Somebody can die if their body can't deal with an external infection. If you take COVID ka example only, right? So then strengthen your body. Simple. How am I so unafraid of the virus? I've been traveling. I've taken public buses also. I came to Mumbai by bus that day because I just wanted to do it. Right? Like I was like, I'm going to go by bus. So how are some of us so confident and not worried and not afraid of death by a virus? I can still get killed if I am not careful about traffic rules, right? But the virus is not getting to me. So there, then you start taking care of your health, right? So if you're afraid of death because of this particular virus, then focus on your health, fix it. You'll really one, so you'll start loving your body. It is such a fun journey to take care of yourself and to fall in love with it, and like to listen to all the small things it tells you, and like it keeps telling you things, right? So it is a
Yeah.
joy to listen to it. Like even hunger can tell you so much, right? Like sometimes hunger can happen because your emotions are messed up. Like someone was really nasty with you, and then you want to eat something, and then you're like, oh, this hunger is because I want to
Yeah.
feel food just like to feel better, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So if your fear of death, I mean, if your fear is coming from a place of like, what happens if I die or if the person I love dies, the simplest thing is, like I said, first is, just trying to understand who your self-awareness. Just get an awareness of your body. Like for me, that like it's the blood test, right? I keep talking about this all the time. Like just get your
Yes.
basic blood test done. Figure out where your status is. It's known that if you have low vitamin D levels, you are particularly susceptible to the COVID virus. So fix that, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I make it sound simple because to me it is something I do all the time. Like I love my
Yeah.
body. I'll take care of it. I'll get my blood work done and I'll figure out where I am in terms of my health.
So
It's
you
that
know how
simple.
I dealt with like those blood tests that like you suggest and that I was so scared of. So like I created this mental analogy that this blood test is sort of like the initial, when you have a bad relationship with someone, like you go to couples therapy or family therapy, and there's that initial session where like the therapist sits the two of you down and starts writing down like all that is not right. So that blood test is your initial therapy session with your own body.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
I know. I was like, yes,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
what
I
makes it so easy. It's like my therapy session with my body where the two of us are talking about, like, listen, you're treating me like shit. I need this to end now. I need vitamin D. Why do you not understand? So it's just at the moment it came to me like even when you keep talking about this being a fun journey, like like I
right.
said, love is fun. So loving yourself, like your health journey should also not be like, oh, this diet and that diet. It should be like a
Yeah,
journey, right? And every day you
exactly.
wake up and your body is just saying, like, their body is leaving love notes when you can walk that extra 30 minutes. And we've seen that with the tribe where people who couldn't walk 15 minutes are now doing like 10-20 kilometers in
Yep,
a
yep,
day. These are your body's love notes back to you.
yep.
So this is how I see this journey. And like, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. And that the moment that blood test came, I remembered, yeah, I have to bring this in. This is what
No,
people
that's
are
such a
scared of.
beautiful way of
Yeah,
because we still talk to so many people who need like who have issues with their health and they're terrified of getting that blood work done because they're like,
exactly.
I don't want to know what's in there. And what you said
Yeah,
right now is so beautiful, right? It's
yeah.
perfect.
Like, till you find out what's there, how will you address it, dude? Like, you
Yep.
are just, you're that your yellow lipstick and your good clothes and all those season end sales can just like give you that much little joy. Like, it's just, for me, it's like putting water in a vessel which has holes in it.
Exactly.
Materialistic, pleasures, because you're just pouring in and it's just going out. So plug those holes and you won't
Yep.
need much after a while. So that is
Exactly,
the
right?
same thing that applies to love. And I think that is what, I mean, I hate the chaos and the turmoil that we all are surrounded with. But at some point, I'm hoping that after hurting itself, the humanity is going to look up and say, wow, how did we get there?
Yep.
And
I hope
yeah,
that happens soon, though.
yeah, and we will take like, I mean, not even a U-turn. We need like a reshuffling, a reassembly of thoughts, of processes, of conditioning. So yeah, so but like that brings me to this question. What are you doing for yourself this Valentine's Day?
I haven't thought of that space. So for me, it's not like one day, right? Like it's been
Exactly.
ages since. it's not. It's really like every day is like that. Like if I wake up and if I like, there are days when I wake up and I feel like shit, right? Because like I
Right.
said, I'm a human being. I have emotions, feelings. Life happens all around me. As much as I try to bend my reality, so that is love for me, really, Pratishtha. Like if I wake up or if I go to bed, like something went off, and then
Yeah.
I I then like I really, for me, meditation is my go-to. But
Right.
that is what I do. I look at what happened and I'm like, how do I bring myself into a state of love? So every day is like that, like because I eat food that my body loves.
Right.
I'm essentially living in a state of love most times, but because it is Valentine's Day, and then because I'm like, okay, let's go with the earthly agenda of having days of calendar and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I might like make a really nice meal for me and my partner, and then we might do like a movie after that. But it's still
Wow.
not planned.
Nice.
Or the other thing I might do is like completely go outdoors and like spend time in nature, because that just makes me happy. Like it makes my heart
I
sing, right?
know. I love the
So
idea of being outdoors with like
yeah,
with myself, with someone,
yeah,
because suddenly now it's just like not four walls and some things. Now it's just the whole universe and the
yep,
vibes just coming to you, and that's like, so that's how I view love. Like to me, love is an open space. It
yep,
doesn't have constructs, it doesn't have like an architecture to it, it doesn't have walls and concrete to it. It's just something you could turn this way, you could turn that way, and it's just very organic. It's not tied to like that. Valentine's Day thing also was a rhetorical question, um because for someone, I mean, I just like feel myself in this constant state of being in first love. Not with
exactly.
everybody, like, I mean, there are days when obviously I'm also low, but uh, I think with Thrive in the last like year and a half, I've just reached that stage where you can actually, like, I mean, it's just amazing. You can wake up in the morning and tell yourself, today I'm going to fall in love. Like, incredible as it sounds, you can actually physically create those ripples within yourself by
Yeah,
just that affirmation. So, um, I think like we have discussed enough about love. Do you
yep.
want to add anything else to how to be in that state of happiness and joy, apart from the little affirmations that we discussed? You said that addressing those core issues is going to take time, but to someone who's watching this and wants to start on that journey, how can Thrive help them? In that state, being a state of self love, in being in love with themselves, how is Thrive going to be that partner whom they can trust
Sure.
and who can open up to?
So for a lot of us, what our body looks like and feels like is one place where we derive a certain uh, level of self-love, right? So
Right.
if you don't like what you look like, as much as you want to accept yourself, if you don't like what you see in the mirror, it's really, really hard to feel the love for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the first thing that we help people with, because I mean, I say we make diseases disappear, but we really help people create a beautiful, positive, loving relationship with their body.
Right.
Now, that is not as complex as, it's, if you, because we just Google, right, how to like, let's say, lose weight, or how to reverse diabetes or something like that, you'll get so much data, you'll get overwhelmed. It's not that
Yes.
difficult. Like I said, it's your blood test. They
Seamless.
just,
Yeah.
you get the answers you need from your blood work, and then you just have to take those simple steps to resolve that. So that's what we do at Thrive. We kind of help people build a beautiful relationship with their body first. That's, I always give this analogy of car and driver, right? Because your mind is like the driver inside the car, and you could
Yes.
be the most amazingly skilled, talented driver, but if you're going to use an auto rickshaw on the
Hmm.
expressway, there's only a certain speed that you're going to reach, right? You're not going to
Right.
be able to show all your skills there. You're not going to be do all the things you're capable of. So first, the body, always the body, begin with the body. And then we start working on the mind, right? Because like once the house is cleaned up, once the walls are neat, once the plumbing is fixed, and you're not like constantly being called that, oh, this is broken, the ceiling is breaking down. Once the house is fixed, the person in the house can then start creating beauty around, right? So then
Right.
we start working with the mind. We bring in all these meditation aspects, and like for those who are willing to do the full journey, we really
Yes.
help them create a vision for their life and what their existence really means and how can they live a life of purpose. Because for me, a lot of my self-love comes from my vision and my purpose. Like, why do I exist on this
Yes.
planet? And then we have that answer very clear. It's like I have to heal 1 million people, and as long as I don't finish doing that, I will exist here.
Right.
So it comes from there. But like the simplest thing that you could do, which I started off when I began my journey, right? Like because I started my mental health journey along with my weight loss and my body, like my physical health
Right.
journey as well.
Right.
So what I had done is there's an app called Blip Blip on your Android apps, right? So I'd installed that. It has an hourly chime, and I had put a notification. What would it take for me to create love in the next 1 hour? So
Oh,
every
nice.
hour, yeah. So every hour, and it was very corny because sometimes I would be out with like, my daughters, like other parents and
Funny
all
is
of that.
good.
And suddenly that chime would go and I had put this like really loud, ship bells, like the dong dong bells, like I
Yeah.
wouldn't miss it, right? So I put a ship's gong, and it would like suddenly go off every hour, and then. But it was so good, right? Because it reminded me to like that intention of what would it take for me to just create love in the next. And sometimes it would just be with me and my daughter because I
It's
was in a
called
place where
what? Flip flip.
the app is Blip Blip, BLIP, BLIP.
I'm so totally doing this.
Yeah, so I use it and I still use Blip Blip. Like I use it for different things now. Like sometimes when I feel that certain things need to be there in my day, I put Blip Blip on and then like it just goes every hour. And then the team also laughs at me because it suddenly goes off loud, right? So you could
Right.
randomize it, you could make it every hour, you can have fun with that.
Wow.
But
Nice.
that trigger every hour made sure that the waking hours of my day were filled with at least somebody reminding me that, hey, this is what you want to do.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like your self reminder, but in an Android app. Yeah.
It's a phone now, so you don't have to go like look at your notes, so you don't have to do anything.
I
वो अपने
know.
आप that ping happens, and then you're like, what was that for? Oh yeah, it was for this. And then at least for 5 minutes, you remember that this was your intention, right? And then your 5 minutes
Yes.
become 10 minutes, 10 minutes become 15 minutes, and then slowly it's an hour, and then it's an hour, an hour, an hour, and then it's a day, and then it's a day, and it's more days, and it's a month, and then it
Very
just,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, because it always starts small, right? Like when
it's
you're
best to
scrolling
start
for
small.
years of that negative mental conditioning, I mean, just latching on to those 5 minutes across the day can be so
Exactly.
helpful.
Even if
Yeah.
it's not 5 minutes at the beginning, even if it's just for that 10 seconds that the alarm rang,
Yes.
it's still, if you're, let's say, keeping it for like 10 hours through the day, you have 100 seconds where you got reminded that you have to create love for yourself or for somebody else in your life, right?
Beautiful.
So,
Yeah, beautiful. See, guys, we have like a love tool right here. You know. So cool. So Mugdha, it was fabulous talking to you. And as Mugdha had mentioned in the beginning, Thrive is celebrating the month of love all of February. This is not your lipstick and spa discounts, which are great, by the way. No problem with that. But these are self-love affirmations, tips on how to get the maximum out of your mornings, how to find those little moments where you can create wellness for yourself, where you can create situations of self love, where you can begin on this beautiful romantic journey with yourself. So, guys, please follow Thrive FNC on Instagram. We have some great stuff coming up, and this is just February. Like, wait for March and April. Like, stuff
I'm
is going to
excited. I'm really excited.
yeah, we are excited. So
All
it was
right.
great, Mugdha,
Lovely,
and
lovely, lovely talking to you.
yes, so till we meet again soon.
Yep.
Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye bye.
guys.